Okay, let's get started. Feels like such a long time. Oops. Stay. Stay. Okay, what, why, oh, it's not, we're not, something's not happening. Check, check. Button's
Buttons are on.
Red button is on. It's this
Buttons
one.
are on. Hello.
There we go.
Check, check. There we go. Check, check. Checking again. Checking again. Can you guys hear me? Oh,
Check,
there we
check.
Are. Okay. We're on now. Okay. Welcome to the Monday, February 23rd, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting. I would like to start by recognizing that we are governing and gathering on the unceded traditional territory of what is now known as the Comox Nation. And we are grateful for their grace and collaboration as we do this good work on their lands. We have an agenda to approve, but I'm going to just read it because we have a bit of an addition for a late item. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda
So
with
moved.
the addition of a matter for the closed portion of the meeting under Section 90, 1K of the Community Charter, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor of that agenda? Okay. And now we are on to the number 2 dam design and hydrology assessment. We are all very excited to learn more about this project.
There we go.
Thanks, Jason. You might just have to move that mic up because you're tall. Yeah,
Got it.
thank you. For the hundreds of people watching at home.
For the whole group, hey?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, again, I'm Jason Wallace. I'm the manager of municipal projects here at the Village of Cumberland. And we have a report that we got from our consultants that are supporting us with a game plan on what to do with our number 2 dam, as well as the North Branch that is causing some erosion up in the Cumberland Creek and Perseverance Creek area up there. So, in your package, you can see the reports there. After doing some hydrology review and some discussions around what possible options we might have, they came up with 3 proposed options to bring forward. So really, if you go through them, the first 2 options, as we kind of detailed there, still have quite a bit of flow going down the North Branch, where we're getting quite a bit of erosion. That area is really hard to access. It's a very steep ravine, and there's just, at this time, not a good way to mitigate that other than reduce the flow. So after discussions with the consultant, their suggestion is we look at doing an upgrade to the number 2 dam, upgrading the spillway to substantially reduce the water that's going to go down the North Branch and move all of the flows, other than in really extreme events, down the Cumberland Creek system to Henderson and then flowing continually through there, which eventually lands in the Perseverance Creek. So that would reduce the erosion concerns that we have in the North Branch. We'd have to put a little bit more effort into Henderson as well as number 2, which they're right now going to go through, once we decide on which option makes the most sense for us, to get estimates and get some more design work put together to understand kind of what we can do from there.
Thank you so much. I'll go ahead with questions, Council.
Sure, I've got a few.
I have some too.
I guess most, just for clarity, the north branch of the Perseverance Creek and the south channel are the same thing. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. That,
Yeah.
because it's referenced as both in the
Two different-
report. And
Yeah.
Yep,
yeah,
fair enough.
okay. So with that, we still haven't received word about the additional $2.7 million of grant funding yet, have we?
We have not, no, and so we put in here as well. That's likely going to be this summer. They'll be able to kind of give our final answer on that. We did reach out to kind of get some detail on when we can expect to hear back.
And that is, just while we're on that, that is a provincial federal grant,
That one's through UBCM, the Strategic Priorities Fund.
which I think is provincially funded.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So then, none of these options are costed. I'm assuming that as we go down the options, they're getting more expensive.
So what happened with this is, so this is just the review of the hydrology and the amount of water and the
Yep.
movement. And so I wanted to get in front and have a bit of a discussion on what that looked like because options were brought forward. And then at that point, then they will start to go through and create the estimates and figure out what price tag that these come with. But wanted to give some guidance to the consultants on the direction that we want to go.
Okay.
But based on the layout of it, you can infer that likely you're going into more of there's more infrastructure in the, say, the third option than the first. But again, just to do that reduction to the erosion concern, that's part of our requirements we have on us.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding it correctly, the big difference between option 2 and option 3 is an additional spillway in the main dam at number 2, in the upper dam.
So it would be creating a heavy enough spillway that goes from number 2 down the Cumberland Creek side to move more of the flows down towards Henderson, and then building up Henderson to be able to handle those flows, and then lifting up the auxiliary spillway that's going to the north branch to a level where only in really extreme events that the water flows are not going down towards Henderson enough, it would spill over that way, but reducing it down to kind of as little as they thought we can do with the amount of water that we have.
Okay, so then it requires so again, the difference between 2 and 3, in 3 there would be additional work at Henderson then
Yeah.
to handle that extra flow that's going to be expected.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then just some questions about the North Branch. Does that need to have water going down it? Is that are there fish in there basically?
I didn't get any information like that from our consultants at this point, that there was a requirement to have flows down the North Branch. I think it was that the current layout, they didn't see a really a logical way to move all the flows, even in, say, an over a 1 in a 100-year event
Yeah.
down to Henderson.
But most of the time that channel in normal, if we go with option 3, that channel will be basically dry most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last thing I noticed, just looking back at some of our past resolutions, with option 3, are we going to be able to maintain that sort of trickle for fish, that idea of having a steady flow that even during the summer?
So the benefit of this is we're moving all the water down the Cumberland Creek channel.
Okay.
And so it would come down to how much water do we have. I'm not going to say that, guaranteed you're going to have water flowing down there, but we would be maximizing the amount of flow that you can send down the Cumberland Creek side.
Okay.
And so, as of now, a large portion goes down the North Branch as well as down the Cumberland Creek. We'd be putting in what we can to send it all down the Cumberland Creek side. We'd have controls in place on both structures, of course, so it would just come down to our operational process at that point.
And then I noticed that we are actually going to have a slightly less storage capacity. It looked like it was going to be a foot lower or something.
So
The
this
report,
is where
right?
they got to get into a little more detail on the design of the actual structure to be able to understand what we're going to be able to get for capacity within. So at this stage, we're looking at the amount of flows that are happening and really what direction we want that flow to go. And then they're going to start to figure out what the structures are going to look like. And then we'll get into more of the detailed kind of estimates as well as a preliminary design. And we'll start to get an idea of exact amount we can hold.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely a challenging area.
Okay, and just to close off my comments, I would really like to try and stay, personally, I would really like to try and stay as close to whatever grant funding we can get. With the overruns on the liquid waste
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that, a bunch of extra money on this right on top of that is gonna be.
Well, and of course, this is kind of the preliminary conversation
Yep.
on, the hydrology piece of it. As soon as we have estimates and, very preliminary designs, we'll be coming back to Mayor and Council to review what that looks like.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's most of,
Thanks,
Fine.
Councillor.
thank you.
Anybody else?
If I may, I love technical reports, so thank you. It's very good to have
Yeah.
detailed data, and it shows that we're trying to gain as solid an understanding as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Thank you. Firstly, I noticed with some of the assumptions placed on here, the way the models have been constructed, the 1 in 100 year event, between the time this type of analysis was done 6 years ago and now, the flow rate for the 1 in 100 year event is more than triple what it was at the last modelling. And the 1,000 year event is at least double. That's a huge variation. And I understand the intensity, so that's my question. This was, I think, written before we just had a 1 in 100 year event, the flooding that we experienced and the state of emergency in the valley.
It would have been, yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any data from that event that helps to support and provide on millimeters of rainfall in that basin? Because I don't know if we measure our rainfall in that basin, and any other, and height that the dam achieved, and I know we can't measure the flow over the spillway. The reason being, these models are clearly very sensitive to the input assumptions, and the more actual data we can use to validate, the better. So that's my first, and I don't expect a full answer.
Yeah, I don't have that with me, but it's, something we'll take back and take a look at and try and include that in the next report that we bring forward.
Okay, thank you. The third option is clearly the one that tries to avoid all the negative consequences we've been so concerned about. The other options leave those negative consequences in place, and that's back to my point about the 1 in 100 year event. The joke is that we're seeing those every 5 years, and that may indeed continue. So if we do try and do something that does less of the negative stuff that we think happens in a 1 in 100 year event, we could see that erosion just continue, and that's my fear, which is why I would love us to try and get towards option 3. Am I correct that option doesn't need to raise the dam? So the dam is rebuilt but not raised, and most of the work, on number 2, and most of the work is on an expanded spillway capacity up there?
So from the discussions we've had, the idea would be to build the structure to create a seismically safe structure to be able to maintain the amount and possibly come up a little bit with what we have in there now. But that's going to come down to, when they're doing the preliminary designs, what the current status is of, say, the spillway area, and ensuring that we're doing that calculation to figure out how much is going to flow down towards Henderson and at what height can we go and still ensure that we're not sending flows heavily down into the North Branch. And so some of that will come out in the preliminary designs that we'll be doing to really nail down kind of exact heights of what we can maintain.
Thank you. And lastly, I think, do we have any understanding, if we're going to send all of that spill down to Henderson, I've hiked that multiple times, I'm sure many people who are watching and here have done too, do we have any understanding of what erosion concerns that might push towards that stream bed?
I brought that up with them, and the initial response was that used to be the natural flow of the creek. And so that is a proper creek bed that, since the dawn of time, handled all the flow, and so they didn't see an initial concern with adding the flow back to that location. It was seen as the heavy erosion concerns we're having is due to the fact that we created a new flow in a different direction, whereas this was the natural creek bed that was there previously. So, it's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on over time with the difference in, like you're saying, in the amount of flows that we're getting now compared to in the past. But it seemed like that was likely our best option from an erosion stance because it was the natural direction that the water had gone.
Yeah, and that explains why it's such a spectacular waterfall and ravine. So thank you. Yeah.
Very true.
Councillor Barecki?
I did have one because as Councillor Ward mentioned, the differences in flow rates and between the two studies is substantial, and this is well outside the scope, but maybe you can have something in the back of your mind. Harvesting obviously impacts how much flow goes into those lakes. There's less retention in that. Has there been any eye towards looking at that, or any discussions with Mosaic around that? And not to put the heavy onus on them because it's hard to know, but is there any eye towards limiting the flow with more sensitive harvest rates in that area?
I haven't been
that
through
will
that
happen.
process, but it's something that we can
Yeah.
kind of make sure is discussed. We're going through the process for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the reference to, I think that's the intention behind the Perseverance Watershed Initiative, is to work with Mosaic to ensure that we understand the hydrology of the watershed and that they don't have impacts on how the function of our watershed works. But that work is obviously ongoing. And as you know, privately managed forest is challenging to control. So that was part of my question is, have we consulted with the stream keepers yet, and when does that happen? It seems like they would have pretty pertinent information to how this might impact the downstream effects, and so they might have some good knowledge around that that would build on Tetra Tech's data.
And not with this report at this time, have we yet? But it would be, I guess, I'm trying to figure out kind of the best time to engage and what level of kind of information we should have in place. But it's something that we could start now with this report if we think that would be the best step.
Okay, awesome. So should we move forward with option 3, which it sounds like that's where we want to go? Would we come back with scenarios for option 3, like we're raising a little bit, if we have this much money we can do this and this and this, like the spillway, the 2 dams, or will it just be one option, this is how we need to go forward? Like, how much flexibility is there?
My plan
in
would be
that?
to come back as soon as we have any type of preliminary design, because that's going to come with a rough estimate of cost, and so we
Okay.
can start to discuss, do we want to go back and say, hey, can we raise it further? We seem to have funds available, or do we need to have those harder
That's highly
discussions?
likely.
Yeah, the harder discussions to say
We have this extra money, what
what
should we
is
do
going to
with
be
it?
available, what do we
Or
have, and what do we need to do to make sure we can get this done successfully. So
Okay.
we're not going to be coming back with detailed designs saying, we're shovel ready. It'll be the initial estimates for this concept and some very rough preliminary designs for us to take a look at.
Okay, so that might be the sweet spot for the engagement with the stewardship groups. Okay.
It'll give us more information to kind of share and look at some of the details of how all that flow would work
Yeah.
once we have that, I would think.
And I guess given the situation at the bottom of Perseverance Creek right now, do we have any indication on how this might affect that? Like, is that the kind of flow we're going to see? Like, where is that water going instead of going there? Or are we routing it all there now? I don't really understand which place connects with which and how much. Do you?
I'm
So we just had this major event.
Yeah.
And it ended up coming down the North Branch, but it still ends up in Perseverance Creek. If it comes down a different branch, is it still eventually ending up down there, or does it go in some other?
Since the event, I haven't had time to look at exactly where
Okay.
the overflow and the flooding had happened, but I would believe Kevin might have.
Yeah.
Kevin's looked at it. I would believe that we're still connecting.
If more flow came down Cumberland Creek, then the confluence of Cumberland Creek and Perseverance Creek is just upstream of that bridge in Logjam.
Okay,
So it could have an impact on trails planning in that area.
okay, okay, so we do have a bit of a intersection here happening, okay. Okay, good. Thank you for this. Any other questions or comments? I think that's all we need. Oh, there's a recommendation there. Yeah. For which option?
I'm happy to recommend that the Committee of the Whole support staff continuing to move forward with option 3, which includes upgrading both Number 2 Dam and Henderson Lake Dam, as indicated in the Cumberland Number 2 Dam and North Branch Perseverance Creek Rehabilitation Design Hydrology Assessment dated February 17th, 2026.
Thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you so much, Jason. You might want to stay there because I see an audience full of people who may have questions, and we're going to move to question period. Are there any questions online first, Melissa? And if anyone has questions in the audience, maybe we'll ask for you to come up and use the mic. Nothing online. So any audience members have questions? Come on up. Thanks for being here, everyone. Appreciate it.
Jason, you say that.
Can you use the mic so we can, so people can hear the question at home? Otherwise, I'd have to try and.
Say there are controls in place for Henderson Reservoir. In other words, I get where I'm going with this is there will be a way to release minimal flows in drought periods down lower Perseverance Creek. The control will be in place to do that.
Yeah. So we do have a valve in there that, we control the amount of water that's being held back. And so it would be around an operational decision on kind of how we operate it. But yeah, that would be in place.
Great. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else in the audience have questions? Thanks for learning how to be a hydrologist, Jason. Appreciate it. Okay. So if there's no other questions from the audience, we are moving to a closed session. If someone wants to make that recommendation, please.
I'll move the council close the meeting to the public pursuant to Section 90 of the Community Charter to consider the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, or the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, and the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose.
And I'll just add the late item in there as well, which is negotiations and related